of the Urhobo Global Webinar. I want you to do something for us. Just tell us where you are joining us from. Greet Urhobo in the chat room and just say Urhobo, joining from Lagos, joining from Toronto, joining from Accra, joining from Washington, joining from London. Wherever you are joining us from, use the chat room and quickly just greet Urhobo and tell us where you are joining us from as we continue with the program. We will start shortly. In the next 3 minutes, we'll start the program. Sorry, next 5 minutes. So just use the chat room and tell us where you're joining us from. Wadu, welcome. Joining from Lagos, from Asaba. Wherever you're joining us from, just let us know. Welcome on board.
What I will not know, was to borrow one day. On the rapport, on the water, Adara jagari moto, ajagari tuni, agawa fe warae, jeno yara kuye, imoto rile, ye ya fe marae, aroma ma ye wi moto, aroma fa ye guri moto, uriye koya, ide so jare na. Urhobo way. They are by the Mari Purena. One day I will be my way. One will go to Purea. Paroma way away. Paroma way my way. Oh, my Izupurie. Body pop with your new woman. Body pop with your new woman. Body pop with your new woman. Okay. Welcome everyone to the 4th edition of the Urhobo Global Webinar, tagged A Greater Urhobo, hashtag A Greater Urhobo. We want to welcome all of you for joining us today, and we thank you for your patience. It's
time to start the program. The theme is Urhobo Nation in the Nigerian state, and we are grateful to everyone joining. We have about 90 participants from all over the world: Sao Tome and Principe, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, from Nigeria, Lagos, River State, Abuja, Delta, Edo State, from all over the world. We thank you all for joining, and we're about to start. And I'd like you to just watch this short interlude as we start the program. Thank you very much. Please use the hashtag #AGreaterUrhobo and share on all your social media platforms. Once again, we welcome you to this 4th edition of the Urhobo Global Webinar program, #AGreaterUrhobo. Please use the hashtag in all your social media platforms: Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, and so on and so forth. Now, quickly, we'll take you through the program of event for today in terms of what we have. Today, we are going to have the opening prayer by Mr. Bruno Sobotier, and then the national anthem, and then we'll take the Urhobo anthem, and then a welcome address by Chief Charles Majoro, and then following that, we'll take the first set of the keynote presentation by our keynote speakers. We are blessed to have Professor Gigi Darah, Professor Sonny Awhefeada, and Professor Kingsley Ibru, who will be speaking to us as keynote presenters, and then we'll take a short interlude, and following that, we'll have a panel discussion. We have the honor and privilege of our distinguished Honorable Francis Ejiroghene Waive already with us, and Dr. Cecilia Ibru, as well as Honorable Ben Rollands Igbakpa, all here with us today. And then we'll have some time for interaction, and then we'll conclude and take a vote of thanks, and as well as a closing prayer. So without much ado, I would like to call on our big brother, Bruno Sobotier, to please unmute his mic and also put on his video as we take the opening prayer this evening. Bruno Sobotier, over to you.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay, yeah. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father, Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for assembling us today. You know how we are, why we are assembled here. We are Urhobo people all over the world, assembled to ponder and think of what to do to ourselves, challenges we have, and how to find solutions to them. Father, without you, we are nothing. You are the beginner of without the beginning. By your special grace, we have come out in three occasions last year, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd novenas. You were the one responsible for the success. We give you all the thanks and glory. Today too, we are coming out. Father, by your grace too, we want you to accompany us as you have always done for us, so that at the end of the day, all what we plan for will be accomplished according to our plans for the good of the Urhobo Nation, because of your divine will. We also pray that you bless all the speakers, speakers we have today, the discussants too, and all the children, all Urhobo children all over the world who are listening to us today. So at the end of the day, we give you all the honor and glory. In Jesus' mighty name I have prayed. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Mr. Bruno Sobote, a member of the Board of Trustees of the Urhobo Webinar Group. God bless you, sir. We'll take the national anthem at this point. It's time for the national anthem.
On match day live, we've just seen Jesse Lingard do it again for West Ham United, 2 goals in a 3-2 victory.
Thank you. So let's take the Urhobo anthem now. The Urhobo anthem as rendered by our beautiful sister, may her soul rest in peace, Kefi.
Okay.
Thank you. Once again, welcome everyone for joining us this afternoon to the global webinar, hashtag A Greater Urhobo Nation, considering the Urhobo Nation in the Nigerian states. We are pleased to have the honor and privilege of some of our best brains and best minds in Urhobo Nation. We have the none other than Professor Gigi Darah, Professor of Folklore Literature, who is one of our keynote speakers. We have Professor Sonia Awhefeada, the Dean Faculty of Arts of Delta State University. We have also with us Professor Kingsley, who is also the Dean Faculty of Law of the Delta State University as our keynote speakers. And then following that, we have our discussants. We have the very distinguished Honorable Francis Ejiroghene Waive here, member House of Representative, Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu Federal Constituency. We have the honor of our Mason, our mother, Dr. Cecilia Ibru, President and co-founder of the Michael and Cecilia Ibru University and Foundation. We also have distinguished Honorable Ben Igbakpa, a member House of Representative, Etiop East and West Federal Constituency. We want to say a big thank you to all our distinguished speakers and discussants. We thank you very much for joining us. My name is Dr. Benson Uwheru. I'm your host for this webinar. I'm a partner and also a banking and capital markets leader for Ernst & Young in West Africa, Ernst & Young across the region. We trust that by the grace of God, we'll have a good time today and we'll be able to reach out some conclusions for the greater good of Urhobo Nation. So at this point, we're going to take the welcome address, and I'd like to invite one of the members of the Board of Trustees of the Urhobo Webinar Group, one of our leaders, one-time Deputy President General of the UPU, and also a distinguished Urhobo who has accomplished across various sectors and various organizations where he served. Please permit me to introduce to you none other than our father, a man that we all respect for his passion and dedication for Urhobo land. With all due respect, allow me to invite none other than Architect Charles Majoro to give us the opening remarks and the welcome address. Can you unmute your mic, sir? Your mic is mute. Can you unmute your mic? Yes.
I think I'm muted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My fellow Urhobos and distinguished members of this group, particularly I welcome our great speakers, our great minds who have come to enrich our gathering today. Like the host just said, this is the fourth in our series of webinars designed, as always, to focus and direct our minds towards the topical issues of our time. Somehow, we the Urhobos have always been slow to act as though unaware of impending developments, thankfully in the recent past, but not before. I must emphasize, we had acted quickly, firmly, forcefully, and successfully, and in a unified manner as a people, once we saw the need to do so in the areas of education, in the creation of Urhobo College and other issues, in the area of land boundaries, in our certain ownership of certain landmark towns in Delta State, and even our boundaries with our neighbors, even in business, and long before also in politics. It appears our DNA is mutating and a new variant of less or last-minute stimuli is taking hold. And we only agitators for action when it's almost too late. Therefore, our mandate groups no longer possess the same commitment as of yesteryears. Even if they do, too many internal dissuaders, many extraneous factors, and avoidable infighting combine to blunt the thrust of the edge that we have. That discussion, therefore, is for another day. Anyway, our task today is simple. Mine is very simple. To make a welcome address, also set the tone for the speeches by the brightest of the minds in Urhobo land, and to espouse their knowledge on the variables of security, restructuring, and national economy with long and short-term visions. I know we shall be better placed on the path of how, one, to remove the cloud of derision of the Urhobo name, deliberately propelled by others because of a lack of reaction to issues as they occur, particularly in the social media. Also to establish a Nehemiah mission for the rebuilding of the broken walls of our Jerusalem. 3, to reclaim the blessings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob on the land where we have divinely settled before the 14th century, in which by divine gift we exist as Urhobos. To establish our rightful place in this state, this Delta state, derived from Midwest state, and for which our recent leaders and fathers were in the forefront in its upbringing. To set about verbal and intellectual actions that will build traction in our people towards pride and greatness. To create value and mutual interface with our neighbors for speedy development and equity. I repeat, equity. To bring a new flavor and fragrance to the conversations soon to start in our God-given space in a time which we all know is coming. To aim for connection of the national inequalities, the distribution of expectations, and the receivables to which we are entitled in the space called Nigeria. Well, to come back to the issue of simple housekeeping, we need to also derive a system of selecting within us as people and persons the best suited for places and positions if we are honest to ourselves and we know that who we are selecting are better than us and better qualified for those positions. To eschew petty considerations and imperfections within ourselves while focusing on the major journey towards the shining city on the hilltop. None of us is perfect. None of us either is useless. The tasks are enormous for the upliftment of our race, and the best suited must be pushed forward, lest we allow pettiness to overshadow the ray of the direction given to us by the light on the city on the hill before us. However, let me be more specific. Today, we shall focus mainly on security, restructuring, and economy. Tomorrow, we shall set our minds on other parts of the jigsaw that make up the national equation. Urhobo is awash with the best and the brightest. We have chosen some of them today to tackle the issues itemized earlier. I trust that they will do a good job. I look forward to an invigorating intellectual session. I welcome all of you. Wado.
Thank you very much. That's the welcome address by Architect Charles Majoro, and we thank you very much for your passion and for your dedication to Urhobo. Megwo. So kindly watch the next clip, which is a collection of the series of webinars that we've had in Urhobo. Urhobo Wado, Igbakpa Migwo, Inyogome Migwo, Wado. Welcome to the webinar on agricultural opportunities for Urhobo Nation, and our objectives are three. Number one is consider exploring the value chain of agriculture in Urhobo land, financing opportunities and scaling up investment potentials for agricultural production in Urhobo land, as well as consider the legal implications for effective agricultural production and land security.
Urhobo people can gather money and plant anything, enter Nigeria and ship it to the place where it can be processed, profitable. Two, there must be a cooperative, somebody with the word collaborate, gather together, If we gather together and then we have cooperatives and collaborations, one man effort is not going to work. Grow it with Urhobo funds, Urhobo management, package it and market it across Nigeria and outside. So when we talk of Urhobo business, it's not just within the small space that we have.
Urhobo plan to do right now is for us to develop SPVs.
We work together to bring up policies that will be beneficial to every person in the community.
I also want to say that collaboration and working together is required now more than ever before.
I want to suggest that will immediately set in motion the plan to have an Urhobo agricultural cooperative.
This is how it begins everywhere when God is turning things around for nations.
We need to task government to start to create policies that can sustain. We do not have a place that even curates them. Have you heard that? And this, I'm now going to mention it. Have you heard that Uwheru has curated a museum or a library where some of all these musical albums have been kept? No, our culture is not so important. It's not front runner. What people want is political power. What people want is economic power. And because of that, we lost the value. Meanwhile, those are the things that actually entrench you and build you into the minds of different people.
In entertainment, when you talk about entertainment, the movie, comedy, and music, it's all was evolving around people from Delta, especially the Urhobos. When you had movies in the early 90s, even mid-80s, it's all around Urhobo names and all that.
Any Urhobo does not have to go and beg any Igbo person or other person to put it in. If you have you approach the foundation and say, I have this idea, then the body set up by the foundation to vet your idea. Once it is approved, whatever resources you want will be given to you. You will give you a partner hotels will be allocated to you, equipment will be given to you. On condition that at least 80% of your cast and crew must come from their system.
The first is that there is the need for all of us as Urhobo people to encourage the speaking and writing of Urhobo language. The second is that there is the need for revival of Urhobo traditions and practices, such as storytelling, dancing. I wrote in the chat group that when I was growing up as a young man, because I grew up in a village, I'm a village boy, I was dancing in Igbakpa. And during the time of Igbakpa, everybody, the whole town will gather and we will dance for them to see.
Thank you very much. That was just a snapshot of the last 3 webinars we've had in the Urhobo Webinar Group. And like you already know, this is the 4th. And we are so grateful to God for the opportunity He's given to us, to participate and also to be part of this great event. Once again, we welcome every one of you joining us all over the world at this webinar event. The next item on the agenda is really for us to talk about the main reason, the objectives of the webinar. Now, the objectives really of this webinar, as you already know, are 4, and they are to evaluate the current state of the Urhobo Nation, to reflect on the conversations on restructuring and the future of the Urhobo Nation, and then of course, what are priorities as a nation, a Nigerian state, and lastly, promoting the unity of Urhobos as one. More than ever before, we know that we are blessed as a people. Urhobo Nation is blessed with people who are hardworking, diligent, industrious, and focused. Make no mistake, we are the major ethnic group in Delta State, and even though we know that there are plans to undermine our population, but we are like the children of Israel, and will continue to blossom like palm trees planted by the riverside. So this webinar really is designed for us to explore our nation, the Urhobo Nation, and what we can do to remain resilient and to sustain the growth of our people. At this point, I'm going to call on our first keynote speaker, who will be presenting to us. We have Professor Darah, Professor of Oral Literature and Folklore at Delta State University. Following that, we have Professor Awhefeada, who will be also speaking to us. And then we have Professor Kingsley Ibru, who's the Dean Faculty of Law, in the Delta State University. After that, we'll take a short break, and then we would ask our discussants to come on board to also speak to us. So at this point, I'm going to call on our keynote speaker, Professor Darah. You all know him very well. Darah is an advocate for Urhobo. He's a former chairman of the editorial boards of the Daily Times and the Guardian. He's retired now, but he's not tired. He was a delegate to the 2014 National Conference representing Delta Central. And also he's a member of the PANDEF, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum. And he's a resource person and very passionate and very loyal to the Urhobo cause. And we are grateful that our father, Darah, is here with us today. So Prof, over to you. Professor? Can you unmute your mic and speak so we can hear you? Hey. Hey. I hear you. Can you unmute Darah's microphone, please? Prof.
Undergoing a turbulent situation.
We can't hear Darah. I think Darah's microphone is not working well. So I would need to go over to Professor Awhefeada to present his paper. Prof, are you ready? Professor Sonia Awhefeada. Okay, so we'll come back to Darah. Let's take Professor Awhefeada. And I'm going to share your screen, Prof, so that you can present. Thank you. Prof, can you hear me? Professor Sonia, can you hear me? Hello? Can you unmute your mic, Professor Sonia Awhefeada?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly now?
Clearly.
Okay, thank you. Urhobo Igbakpa. So, having said that, I want to begin by way of introduction, express my gratitude to the Urhobo Global Webinar Group for the great work they are doing, and of course for considering worthy to speak at today's event. I appreciate them for initiating this conversation which is all about the unity and the future of the Urhobo people in Nigeria. I very much appreciate them, and I also urge them to challenge other Urhobo groups, wherever they might be, political or non-political, to join in the conversation about how to make Urhobo great. I think it is a venture that is worthwhile. In the paper inviting me to come and give this talk, I was asked to talk for 8 minutes. So please permit me to just give a summary of what my talk is all about. So having done this introduction, we are talking about Urhobo. And Urhobo is existing as an entity within Nigeria. So we can't talk about Urhobo without talking about Nigeria. I think the general thinking right now is that all is not well with Urhobo. This is true, because all is not well with Nigeria. So that should be the premise from which I want to look at what I consider, or which many people also consider to be the Urhobo predicament. All over Nigeria right now, you find a tumult, you find clamor. Even those that we think are the head of affairs, they are also clamoring for a new deal. So that is why I salute the organizers of this webinar, for us to actually examine and evaluate the place of Urhobo in the Nigerian nation, what our unity can bring to bear for the future of Urhobo, what we can negotiate, what we can consider to be our stake in the Nigerian nation. So the starting point is that all is not well with the Urhobo nation, because all is not well with Nigeria. That is something I want all of us to take home. We have agonized for so long, but let us anchor that agony on the reality that all is not well with Nigeria. And this is something that we are all suffering today. Having said that, I want to talk about Urhobo unity. The essence of Urhobo unity dates back to 1931, when our fathers founded what was then the Urhobo Brotherly Society, later became Urhobo Progress Union, UPU. And in spite of all that has happened to the UPU, all that has happened to the Urhobo people, I want to congratulate the Urhobo people and salute them for ensuring that UPU has not died. I'm a student of history, and I can tell that UPU is one of the oldest ethnic organizations, even political, social-cultural, that is existing in Africa. It is second only to the ANC in South Africa, founded in 1912, and then the Oron Union in Akwa Ibom, founded in 1925. So all other organizations came after this theory. So the fact that UPU is still surviving, I think, calls for cheer. So much has happened, no doubt. There has been ups and downs, but I think I should salute UPU, congratulate the people that UPU is still alive. And by this November, UPU is going to be 90. So I think what we are doing right now should also be a step in the right direction to strengthen and consolidate on the gains of UPU, and then pursue the essence of Urhobo unity. Now, talking about Urhobo future and our place in Nigeria, we must first of all understand our heritage and, of course, our advantages. A very significant advantage we have is our high level of homogeneity. We have what I would call one language, even though there are varieties or dialects of the Urhobo. That is a very strong advantage. We have a good climate, benign climate that can sustain life, plant and animal. Then we have arable land that is suitable for agriculture. And again, we are home to rivers. We have many rivers in Urhobo land, and they all open to the Atlantic Ocean and connect us with global civilizations. And very importantly, our population, no matter what anybody will say, we are more than 5 million at home and in the diaspora. And with that figure of 5 million, we are among the most populous ethnic nationalities anywhere in the world. With that figure of 5 million, we are also more than 120 countries in the world. But for time, I could have revealed the names of those 120 countries that is modern in terms of population. So that is part of our heritage, that is part of our advantage. Now, talking about Urhobo, we must talk about the Urhobo Progress Union. I've hinted at it earlier, founded in 1931. You know, the colonial era, beginning from 1914, the amalgamation, threw Urhobo into some kind of bewilderment. It came up with a new social reality that confined us to the margins. We were in darkness, we were backward. So what do? Our fathers came together, you know, Thomas, and later that is Akawari. They came together to redress what was then considered as backwardness. If you read the book of Uwheru and the works of Peter Ike, you actually will shed tears and appreciate what the founding fathers of UPU did to help the Urhobo people. And did they achieve their dreams? Of course, yes. They achieved so much. I keep beating my chest to say, look, I'm very proud that I'm an Urhobo because of the kind of ancestors that we have. What were their achievements? The most symbolic has to be in the field of education. Johnson Prof, who once told us a story that around 1944, Chief Mo tried to Nnamdi Azikiwe that there were no opportunities for a course. He then challenged Mo to bring somebody with just standard 6. They went all over, they couldn't find any that was free. The few that had standard 6 were teachers, and you couldn't pull them away. So they founded Urhobo College in 1948. They brought money together, awarded scholarship to the first Urhobo graduate, the first 2 of them, Waive and Ezekiel Igbo. Then there were some of our land territory that were already given out. Sapele, Urhobo, Abraka, Darah. UPU brought them back. There were many landmark judgments that UPU also won for the local people. What about the essence that Mukoromo was the first person to represent Warri province? Warri province was made up of Urhobo, Ijo, Ishekiri, Ukwani, and Isoko in the Western House of Assembly. And Urhobo represented all of these large entities. When Mo died in 1948, another Urhobo man, Jesao from Abraka, took over from Mo. All of these were the achievements of the UPU, and many more that time will not allow me to recount. And what happened? By the 60s and 70s, the fruits of UPU's sacrifice and effort were beginning to manifest. And the personality emerged, no longer a second-class citizen. We were able to catch up and even overtake many other ethnic nationalities. Our personalities attained national visibility, and they were second to none in terms of achievement. Up to this moment, I do not think there is any other Nigerian that has the business savvy or wizardry of Honorable Michael Christopher Nigerian people. I don't think we can have a better boardroom guru than Gamaliel Onosode. In every field, Urhobos were at the apogee, and they were the senator of all eyes. So that is something that we can gain from the achievement of the UPU, which we must build upon. Now, having said that, what do we not say about Urhobo unity and Urhobo interest in time past? The present generation has a lot to learn from the past. Let me dwell on the First Republic and Second Republic. In the First Republic, I want to cite 3 examples. Pa Esiri, first medical doctor, who was in NCNC, Chief Daniel Okumagba, Chief T.E. Salubi from was in Midwest Democratic Front. And of course, Barrister J.E. Ojiti was in Action Group. They were UPU stalwarts. They belonged to different political parties, but they put Urhobo interest above it all. And what happened? When Midwest was created, thanks to the effort of UPU too, Urhobo was governor, Urhobo was speaker of the House of Assembly, the person of P.K. Tabiuku and L.J. Marieri. And again, when they brought what is now better glass to healing. All of these were some of the gains that were derived from Urhobo unity and, of course, Urhobo interest. They put Urhobo interest and unity above party lines. Then by the Second Republic, great friends again found themselves on different political parties, but they put Urhobo interest above all. Friends cannot be closer than Demos Akbori and Daniel Okumagba. But they find themselves on different political platforms, but every evening, the story were told. They always came back to Warri, they always came to Urhobo and talked about Urhobo unity and Urhobo interest. And the boom Urhobo experienced from 1979 to 1985 was a product of that understanding of Urhobo unity and Urhobo interest. What was the boom? Akpore's UPN multiplied schools all over Urhobo land. Okumagba's NPN brought DSC, brought Benin Owena River Basin Development Authority, and so many other industries that banished unemployment and banished poverty from Urhobo land. What was that? That was putting Urhobo interest and Urhobo unity above personal and, of course, party interest. Urhobo first was what they talked about. Now, all of this look like a glorious past. We should ask ourselves, what now happened? That is the idea of the decline. And the decline can be linked to the, 16 years of military rule. It wasn't only Urhobo that was affected, it was the entire Nigerian nation that was affected by the 16 years of military rule. It was the product of what we call arrested development. There was a stalemate, there was a standstill until 1999, when the present dispensation came on board. So that was the decline from 1983, December 31, unfortunate coup, to May 29, 1999. 16 years of military rule. That was what halted Urhobo's journey to greatness. And of course, that is what we are trying to redress today. Not just Urhobo, as I said, but the entire Nigerian sojourn was arrested between 1983 and 1999. Now, talking about Urhobo unity, it has to do about the Urhobo future. Urhobo unity now is non-negotiable. It is something that I want to enjoin all of us to sign up to. We must put personal interest aside. We must put party interest aside. It has to be Urhobo. And of course, the essence of Urhobo, of Waive, Okube Urhobo. That is something that we must begin to think about. And right now, there are many pluralities. Some might say there are too many. There are not too many. There are very many Urhobo organizations working for Urhobo interest. I think what I want to advocate is that there should be a synergy of all of these groups and see how we can pursue a common interest for the Urhobo people. That is very, very important. Look at the Yoruba people and even the Igbo people. Apart from Awhefeada, there are over 20 other Yoruba groups all working for the Yoruba agenda. Look at the Urhobo Nation. We have the UPU, which is our umbrella body. Atamu is in Lagos, Urhobo Social Club, Urhobo Renaissance, and many others. All we need to do now is how we can coalesce, have a synergy, and of course pursue a common future for the Urhobo people. And in doing this, we must think of intellectual support and intellectual foundation for the Urhobo future and Urhobo agenda. Because Urhobo will go nowhere until we think of how we can aggregate and take advantage of our intellectual resources. I am talking from Okpara. I came here deliberately to speak. Okpara, I'm at the headquarters of Urhobo Historical Society. You know, this is the kind of thing I think we should do. Try to show up intellectual support for Urhobo unity, Urhobo agenda, and every other thing that we know we need to pursue. And that the essence of Urhobo unity or its agenda must be very visible. It must be very, very visible. The Yorubas have made a great use of the press, the media. I think that is also what we can also do as Urhobo people. So that is saying that. Now, having talked about Urhobo future, we should talk about the Urhobo agenda. Do we have an Urhobo agenda? For now, it is no. There is no consensus as to what constitutes Urhobo agenda. I think that is something we should begin to think about now. And in trying to formulate an Urhobo agenda, I want to propose at least 9 items. I want to propose at least 9 items. The agenda must have a political undertone. That is something we'll talk about now because my time is already running out. It must have economic undertone. It must have a culture component. It must have a youth component. It must have environment component. You might not know. Urhobo land is fast becoming another Gordini. Come to Iroike and see the kind of degradation people are suffering there. It must have women component. It must have ICT component. And some other things we know that are germane to the survival of the Urhobo people. Now, in framing that agenda, unity is imperative. We must come together and build a consensus and promote our interests and see what actually that agenda would be. Then the imperative of our unity cannot be overemphasized. We must be united. We must be united. And that agenda should interrogate the essence of Nigeria. It should negotiate a place for Urhobo in Nigeria, because we are all seeing what is going on in Nigeria. Nigeria is in tumult. Nigeria is right now suffering from bed pants. There are a lot of permutations, but at the end of this is that a new Nigeria will be born. And when that new Nigeria is born, what is the stake for the Urhobo people? How prepared are the Urhobo people to come to the round table and negotiate their destiny and negotiate their place in the Nigerian nation? We must emulate and even do more than what the Yoruba people and the Igbo people are doing. Because right now, there is not for one is well in Nigeria. We are at a cost, and something is going to give. When that thing gives, we are all going to come together at a round table and then advance agenda for every ethnic nationality. That is why the Urhobo people must come together now, build a consensus, and then put forward what our agenda is. We must make demand from the Nigerian nation, because we have been exploited for 63 years, from 1957, when oil was discovered in Afisere, Eroike, and Eromukukmari. So we must, and now I'm proposing, though I told you for another because of time, I'm proposing $100 billion as our demand from the Nigerian state for what Nigeria has stolen from us. So I'm concluding, as I said, for the purpose of time, that I want to propose a tripartite platform, which would be like a think tank made up of Urhobo politicians, Urhobo business class, and of course, Urhobo academics, to drive the Urhobo agenda. And of course, the UPU should be at the forefront to provide the platform. And my last line to underscore Urhobo unity is that we should modify our greetings. It has always been Migwo Vrendo. I want to add that after we say Migwo and we say Vrendo, we should follow it by saying Urhobo of Wovu. So my brothers and sisters and my fathers and elders, these are my thoughts for now. Thank you for listening.
Atiabo, put your hands together. Put your hands together for that very brilliant presentation by the very distinguished Professor Sonny Awhefeada. He's proposed $100 billion compensation, and also is saying that a tripartite solution consisting of Urhobo intelligentsia, the politicians, and the academia come together to chart a course for the greater Urhobo nation. Thank you so very much, distinguished Professor Awhefeada. I think Professor Gigi Darah is ready now, so I'm going to unmute him and ask him to do his presentation quickly. Prof, over to you.
To start my video.
Start your video. Or you show you now. Let's put the something here.
Yeah, we can hear Prof now. You can go ahead.
Okay. They are supposed to be hearing you now.
Prof.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Prof. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
As I said, I gladly welcome this initiative for a discussion on the state of the Nigerian nation and how it affects Urhobo people. I have opened by saying that we are very familiar with the current situation, that Nigeria is in deep crisis. And that when the country is in a deep crisis like this, all the constituent parts of the country are also affected. So the Urhobo people, the Urhobo nation, are also embroiled in the turbulence
that is afflicting Nigeria now. I have observed that this crisis is manifested in various ways that suggest widespread violence. Every day, we hear or read about kidnapping, we hear about armed robbery, we hear about terrorist attacks, and we hear about all kinds of declarations of independent nations, independent republics. So in fact, there's a situation of anarchy. I go on to explain that these conditions that we are now experiencing are a consequence of a certain disaster that afflicted Nigeria through the introduction of military rule. For us to understand and appreciate the nature of the Nigerian crisis and to see how it affects Urhobo people, it's also important for us to understand and appreciate the background. My point is that Nigeria is suffering from these conditions of unrest and instability and insecurity because the system adopted for ruling Nigeria is a wrong one. The system that is being used now is a unitary system which was introduced by the military in 1966. This unitary system concentrates power at the center. Now, the center is in Abuja. And because of this concentration of power at the center, the units like Urhobo and other ethnic groups that belong to Nigeria are marginalized and oppressed. I have traced the history back that in the 1940s, Urhobo enjoyed a better and more equitable system than we are having now. I argue that politically and economically, Urhobo is at its lowest ebb ever in the past 90 years. And I argue that the reason why this is so is that at the time of independence, Urhobo nationalists supported the system of federalism. And federalism means a system of government in which the center and the constituent units enjoy the same level of power. There's no hierarchy. The center is not higher than the states or the provinces or the regions. Power is shared, responsibility is shared, and the constituent units can make a contribution to run the center. Because Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and multicultural society, our nationalists negotiated with British colonial authorities to establish federalism. This was set up in the 40s, and our nationalists, Chief Mowo, Chief Mariere, T.A. Salubi, P. Keita Bioho, all of them participated in the fashioning of that political system. And when the system started to operate from the 40s, we also benefited from its rewards. Power was shared, responsibilities were shared, but the most important element of that federalism was that regions had substantial control of ownership over their own natural resources. That was the defining point, attribute of that system. Urhobo people, first under the Western region, enjoyed the benefit of that arrangement. At least 50% of derivation was enjoyed by the regions. When the Midwest region was created in 1963, and Urhobo became a leading factor in that region, we also benefited from the attributes of that federalism. The 50% derivation that accrued to the regions, accrued to Midwest, through our oil, through our rubber, through our timber, and through our oil palm and other products. And you can see that Midwest region, for example, within a space of 18 months, under the leadership of Denis Osadebe and Samuel Jerity Mariere, within 18 months, was able to establish 3 major industries to transform the economy of Midwest State. The Asaba textile mill in Asaba, the glass factory in Uwheru, as well as the Ukpila cement factory in near Auchi. All these things happened within a short time because the advantages derivable from federalism. That system was liquidated by the soldiers who introduced unitarism. And by introducing that unitarism, we were then deprived of our own entitlement to the resources of our land. For those who care, that wicked policy started in 1969 with the Petroleum Decree Act 1951 of 1969. Nigeria was in the second year of the Civil War, and the federal government felt that it would nationalize the oil in order to prevent Ojukwu from using the oil money to fight Nigeria. The Civil War ended in 1970, but Nigeria did not return to derivation and federalism. It is the absence of that system that has aggravated the problem of Nigeria. The more the federal government accumulates these powers and accumulates the resources, the more deprived the regions and the states become. Niger Delta and Urhobo are economically poor today because the resources and the revenues that should be used to develop this area have been channeled to the federal government, first to Lagos and not to Abuja. And once in a month, this stolen wealth is shared by the federal government to even states that make no contribution to the federation account. 26 states of Nigeria do not make any contribution at all. Only 10 states make. So I attribute the current economic crisis of Urhobo land to the fact that our own resources are hijacked, they are stolen, they are kidnapped, and we are left famished. To this extent, I go on to the next level. As a result of the cumulative effect of this deprivation of the constituent units of Nigeria, they have been held several conferences. From the time of the June 12, 1993 agitation, there have been demands for a reconstitution, a re-engineering of Nigerian political system. The conference of 2005 that was organized by President Obasanjo did not succeed. But the one of 2014, organized by President Jonathan, succeeded. And I was the delegate representing Urhobo Nation. That conference has provided an exit point for Nigeria. It was unanimously agreed upon that for Nigeria to survive as a nation, for peace to reign, and for equity and justice to be experienced, Nigeria must return to the federal system that was agreed upon by our nationalists in 1960. Nigeria must return to a federal system and reject the unitary system. That conference has set that benchmark. In addition to that, the conference went further, that to remove the infrastructure of military oppression, the new federal government should not return to the old regions The old regions of 4 regions, Northern, Eastern, Western, and Midwest, the new Nigeria should not return to those regions because there has happened in the past 30, 40 years a new dispensation. The new federal government should be constituted of a federal center in Abuja and states of the federation. So there will be 2 tiers of a government, a central tier and a state tier. The conference went further to adopt the position presented by the UPU. And that position was that more states should be created to give autonomy and self-governance to areas that are presently marginalized. In that recommendation, Delta State is to be divided into 2 states. This is a very important aspect for our own people in order to prepare our own general mind to struggle and win this concession already granted. Delta State is to be created and divided into 2 states. One state will be called New Delta State, and it will comprise Urhobo, Isoko, Ijo, and the Shekiri. These are the nations that constituted the old Delta province, minus Abo and Ukwane. The other state is to be called Anioma State, and will comprise Ika, Ukwane, and Western Igbo. These divisions were already agreed and approved by the conference, remaining implementation. This position that was converted by UPU and was approved by the conference becomes our mantra. We are to organize ourselves to contribute and join all those parts of Nigeria that are now insisting on the implementation of that conference report. And the slogan that have been set up to actualize it is called restructuring. Restructuring is a system of rearranging Nigeria so that the unity system will be abolished, so that the dominance and the hegemony of Hausa Fulani will be reduced, so that minority nations in the Middle Belt, in Niger Delta, and other parts will not be given more room to express themselves, to enjoy their own resources, and to govern themselves equitably. So restructuring is the slogan. How does it favor us? First, it gives us a new territory called New Delta State. In that New Delta State, we will be premier inside that state. We will be in a leading position as we used to be in the 40s. We will no longer be under the kind of Midwest in which Benin City was the capital and we had to travel 2 hours there. It's even worse now that Asaba is the capital and we in the Ri Delta have to travel to Asaba 2 hours, 3 hours to transact business. National conference has solved that problem for us. We have to have a new Delta state and we will all operate here and enjoy the benefit. What is the net benefit? All the new states that will be created, there will be 18 new states that will be created across the country. In the south or Niger Delta, there will be 3 new states. That is Anioma and New Delta. There's 1 state there. There will be a state in River State, and there will be 1 state in Cross River called Ogoja State. This arrangement favors Urhobo.
Yes,
and we
Prof.
ought to join the other forces. Yeah, we round up now. We ought to join the other bodies in Nigeria that are clamoring for the structuring to pursue this program to ensure that the state is created, we have 100% control over our resources, we're able to build a new economy, we're able to reduce the oil resources, to revamp other sectors of farming, agriculture, industry, education, and transport and housing. We're able to have our own police, our own security system to guide us. To end it, a new data state to come via restructuring is the best way to go and is the formula that will enable our own people to regain the prominence and eminence that they enjoyed from the 1940s, so that we will now have a new country where there will be equity and justice and democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Atiaboki, Prof. Let's clap, let's put our hands together for Prof. That's a wonderful one. I must say that our professors have their materials already documented in PowerPoint. I will share to all participants. Please avail your email addresses to all of us, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of the presentation by Professor Darah, Professor Sonia Awhefeada, and Professor Kingsley Edu. So I'll quickly bring our last keynote speaker, Professor Kingsley, for 8 minutes before we bring in our discussants, and then we can have our interaction. So Professor Kingsley, I'd like you to put on your video and unmute yourself. Prof, can you hear me? Can you unmute your mic, please?
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you now. Great.
Good. Okay.
I'm going to share your screen
Okay.
and you can take it up from there. All right. Just give me a second. All right. So there you go. Can you see? All right.
Yes.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be part of this program. I want to thank the Urhobo Global Webinar Group for putting together this program. I've been asked to speak on restructuring and devolution of powers, perspectives of the Urhobo Nation. It is not gainsaying that Nigeria is currently experiencing problems. We have economic, social, and political problems. Nigeria is no longer safe. People can no longer go to their farms. It is not safe to travel in our roads these days, even our waterways. Armed robbery, banditry, kidnapping, they are on the increase. Unemployment is on the increase. How did we get here? How can this problem be solved? What are the reasons for these problems? I've identified two major reasons. One, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, and the operators of the Constitution. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has concentrated too much powers on the federal government. 68 items are on the exclusive legislative list, while just 12 are on the concurrent legislative list. More than this, the revenue sharing formula is skewed towards the federal government. And so the federal government has so much money, so much power at its disposal. Hence, there is always a clamor among politicians to go to the center, because that is where money is. That is the state we find ourselves in Nigeria. And this ugly state of affairs calls for restructuring. There is need to restructure this country. The states are not economically viable. Very few states in Nigeria are economically viable. Lagos, Kwara, Kaduna, Ogun, and some few states. There is need to ensure security and safety of life and property in this country. With restructuring, there can be healthy competition among the states. There's need also to address the excessive powers at the federal level so that appointments based on favoritism, based on ethnicity can be reduced. It's because there is so much powers at the federal level. That is why we have so much appointments at that level based on ethnicism, favoritism, tribalism, name them. There's also need to prevent anarchy because the way we are going, if there's no restructure, if we do not restructure Nigeria, there will be a breakdown of law and order. It will not be too far. So that is why there is urgent need to restructure Nigeria. The Urhobo Nation, I have to speak on behalf of the Urhobo Nation, to propose some areas that I think our restructuring should go. One, the police. The police should be decentralized. We should have state police and even police at the local government level. A situation where the governor of a state, who is supposed to be the chief security officer, is not really the chief security officer, will not augur well for security. We have seen situations where commissioner of police have refused to obey orders of state governors. That's happened in this country. Apart from that, the police is not even well funded. We see governors buying vehicles, buying equipment for the police. So if the state governors can do that, why can't state police be set up so that the states can have their own police? The fear that the state governors will use the police to intimidate opponents is unfounded. After all, has the federal government not also used the police to intimidate opponents? Now, there is also need for fiscal federalism and financial autonomy. There is need to go back to the constitution really agreed upon by the constitutional units of Nigeria, the 1960 constitution, where derivation was 50%, where the states were also entitled to share from the distributable pool accounts. There is need also for Nigeria to actually practice true federalism. The states should be given autonomy to harness their own resources, autonomy to harness their natural resources, their God-given resources. With this, there can be healthy competition, healthy rivalry, a situation where every month the state governors will go to Abuja to share money from the federation account does not augur well for the development of this country. Nigeria can never develop with this state of affairs. Nigeria can only develop when there is restructuring, when there's an overhaul of the constitution, when the states are allowed to tap their natural resources, to harness their natural resources. At present, almost every state in this country, almost every state have one form of natural resources or the other. So why the dependence on petroleum? It's uncalled for. Reliance on petroleum alone will not lead Nigeria anywhere. Our petroleum resources, they will soon dry up. Chevron, Shell, they are pulling out of this country. there is need for us to go back and harness our latent resources. And this can only come when there is restructuring of Nigeria through the Constitution, because the Constitution is the fundamental law of the land. And this can only come when the items in the exclusive legislative list, they are tempered with. As it is, the 68 items on the exclusive legislative list, they are excessive. They are too many. And so I will suggest that the federal government should limit itself to items like defense, like economy, minting, etc. Why the states should be given more powers, more functions? Because the states are really the constituent units that are driving Nigeria. And as the states are given more responsibilities, more powers, they should also be given more resources. The revenue sharing formula should be altered, should be changed in favor of the states. The states should get more revenue to discharge their proposed responsibilities. Apart from this, there's also need for us to restructure our minds. There is need for mind restructuring. There is a culture of graft and greed in the ruling class. There is overinflation of contracts. The salaries and allowances of those at the National Assembly, they are humongous. In fact, they hide their salaries and allowances from us. They don't want us to know, because they know that such salaries and allowances are excessive, too much. And so they are hiding it from us. They don't want to tell us their real salaries and allowances, all because of too much money at the center. There is need for the state governors, the federal governor, the federal government to enact good laws. It's not good enacting laws to give governors and deputy governors pension and gratuities just after 8 years. Meanwhile, these same governors and deputy governors, they have made so much money for the 8 years in office. Why people that have served the state for 30 years, 35 years, they are not giving their pension and gratuity years after retirement? Some even die. It is unfair. There is need for Nigeria to go back to the drawing board. There is need for us to restructure. Restructuring will help this country to move forward. The government should make conscious efforts to promote the political objectives engendered or enshrined in Section 15, Section 2, and 4 of the Constitution of Nigeria, that national integration shall actively be encouraged, and that states shall foster a feeling of belonging and of involvement among the various people of Nigeria. I want to thank you for listening. God bless you.
Thank you very much. A very good professor. Professor Kingsley Edu is a professor of the Faculty of Law and also the Dean of the faculty. Thank you very much. Beautiful presentation. Like I said, please drop your email addresses on the chat box. We've also sent you various emails on this webinar, and then we'll send you the materials from the professors. We'll take a short break, and then we'll come back. Our discussants are ready. They are eagerly waiting. They will give us, their thoughts on the presentation and what they think should be the focus of the Urhobo Nation in the Nigerian state. So we'll take a very short break, and then we'll come back and continue the session briefly. So kindly bear with us. And once again, we want to say welcome to all our participants joining us, at this webinar today. Thank you very much. Urhobo Igbakpa Migo, Urhobo Migo,
Bravo Maria, what does a man will go to Bravo Maria? Bravo Maria, there's a man will go to Bravo Maria. Lady, I call in the apple with your man now.
Urhobo Igbakpa Migo, Urhobo Migo,
Bravo Maria, what does a man will go to Bravo Maria? What does a man will go to Bravo Maria? What does a man will go to Bravo Maria? Lady, I call in the apple with your man now.
Welcome to the webinar on agricultural opportunities for Urhobo Nation, and our objectives are three. Number one is consider exploring the value chain of agriculture in Urhobo land, financing opportunities and scaling up investment potentials for agricultural production in Urhobo land, as well as consider the legal implications for effective agricultural production and land security.
There must be a cooperative. Somebody need to work, collaborate, gather together. You know, if you gather together and then we have cooperatives and collaborations, one man effort is not going to work.
Plan to do right now is for us to develop SPVs.
We work together to bring out policies that will be beneficial to every person in the community.
I also want to say that collaboration and work together is required now more than ever before.
I want to suggest that we immediately set in motion a plan to have an Urhobo agricultural cooperative.
Now it begins everywhere when God is turning things around for nations.
To task government to start to create policies that can sustain. Our culture is not so important, it's not front burner. What people want is political power. What people want is economic power. And because of that, we lost the value. Meanwhile, those are the things that actually entrench you and build you into the minds of different people.
Entertainment, when you talk about entertainment, the movie, comedy and music, it's all was revolving around people from Delta, especially the Urhobos. When you had movies in the early 90s, even mid-80s, it's all around Urhobo names and all that.
Every Urhobo does not have to go and beg any Igbo person for other people to do the movie. If you have to approach the foundation and say, I have this idea, then say, what is set up by the foundation to get your idea? Once it is approved, whatever resources you want is given to you. You will be give partner hotels will be allocated to you. The people will be given to you. On condition that at least 80% of your staff and group must come from their system.
Thank you very much. I think we'll go right into the discussion. We have the honor and privilege of a very distinguished Urhobo, member of the Federal House of Representatives, representing the Ughelli South, Ughelli North, and Udu Federal Constituency as one of our discussants. And he has 5 minutes to provide his perspectives. And following that, we'll call on Dr. Cecilia Ibru, as well as Honorable Ben Rollands Igbakpa. So, distinguished Honorable Francis Waive, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, my dear brother Ben. Urhobo, I had told you I'll be on the road and I'll be multitasking, so I can't do video at the moment. But I'm glad that I can be part of this, and I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I also like to appreciate the speakers, all of whom I've known for many years, and their patriotism and insight to the issue at hand. I want to thank them. Particularly want to thank my co-discussants, one of which is my colleague in the House, and then the other is my former employer, Dr. Mrs. Cecilia Ibru. I want to particularly appreciate your presence. And then everyone there, I want to appreciate the opening remarks of chairman for the day. By the way, I would like to just mention something on the sidelines. Professor Edu, who was with me in Ekpoma while I was doing accounting, he was doing law, brought an issue that was not the issue at stake, the salaries of the National Assembly. I would like to talk about it a little bit because the misinformation is creating a lot of pressure on us who serve. The salaries of members of National Assembly are in the public domain, the legal salaries. And you can find that he has access to that, the freedom of information. It's just $1,070,000 every month for every member of the House. Ben is here, he can collaborate that. By the time you remove loans for car and other things, you go with about 600,000, and that's your salary. The monies that you have to retire every month are not salaries. And I know he's educated enough to know that. And that differs from person to person. And what you retire is not it's not a salary for yourself, what you use to run your offices and all that. So I thought I needed to educate him on that. Because all these stories in the public domain is really plausible when you hear people say, honorable members earn as much as 20 million every month. Where do you get that from? If you times 20 million times 469, it's more than the budget of the National Assembly. And then you hear that garbage out there. I think we're in a situation like this, we shouldn't discuss such things and divert attention. And then when you bring them up, please make sure you have data and not rumors. I'm a member now, sitting member, so I can tell you what obtains. Having said that, I'd like to go straight to the issues. I must say that I agree with the three speakers on the issue at stake, the Urhobo Nation and the Nigerian question, and where we are today, particularly Professor Sonny, when he talked about the decline from the 16 years of military rule, and I know he referred to the last 16 years of military rule, and not the previous 13 years before the Second Republic. I also agree with Professor Darah, our father, his analysis and his conclusion that the restructuring will be the solution to the problems of the Urhobo Nation in the new Nigeria that we are expecting. Having agreed with all of them on these points, I would like to be more particular to look at the steps the Urhobo people must take in order to be ready for this new Nigeria that we are hoping will come out of this present chaos, where everybody is clamoring for change, everybody is clamoring for restructuring. I believe that if we get to a point where something will give, and then is the Urhobo Nation prepared for that moment? That is my concern from all the presentations that have been made. And to that extent, I want to bring our minds to the creation of states and how we lost the capital, and then bring our minds to the election of the second governor after this republic, and the role the Urhobos are perceived to have played, which gave room to the 3 eyes in Delta South Senatorial District, and then which kind of united those in the north and south against the Urhobo people. So we're in a peculiar situation, And we have suffered a lot from this. And as Urhobo people, we must begin to look at the impact that these have had on us. There have been deliberate attempts to undermine us in the scheme of things. For example, years ago, you will attest, take my local government, Ughelli South, registered voters was 133,000 plus. But in the last one, it became 66,000. This is a difference of over 100%. And then you worry, what has happened? There has been no epidemic. There has been no war that affected only the Urhobo people. So why is our population on paper shrinking? And then even in the census figures, you know how our numbers were written down. Thank God for the Ubia people who went to court and fought their own and ensured they got the number that was real. So you find that we are suffering from all this. And when it comes to resource allocation, when it comes to patronage, we lose on the basis of all of this. So we need to get ready for the new Nigeria. And if you ask me what we need to do first, is that we must change our relationship with our neighbors. Our neighbors, they are our cousins, the Ijaw people, the Chekiri people, the Isoko people, the Anyoma people. We must change the nature of our relationship with them going forward. There must be that give and take. There must be that negotiation. There must be that engagement. In this way, I believe that losing the state capital could not have happened in the first place. And then in the new Delta state that the 2014 confab has agreed upon, so that we don't have any challenge going forward. If we romance our neighbors, I believe that it will help us. Antagonism, fighting, quarreling, name calling will not help the Urhobo Nation. Particularly like Chekiri cousins, they have this. By the way, let me say something very strongly. I know my roots to the 5th generation. The only blood in me is Udu and Uwheru. So nobody should come and say, oh, Reverend Waive, honorable member, is supporting the other tribes. No. I'm being practical, looking at the things that will work for us as Urhobo people going forward. Then another suggestion I would like to bring to the table for us to be ready for the new Nigeria, for us to be for the Urhobo Nation to take its pride of place, is for a new leadership for the Urhobo Progress Union. I'm so thrilled when I hear the history from beginning, as Professor Sonny relates them. It's like I've never read them before. These are things we all know, but you begin to wonder, where did we miss it? In Mokoro's time, we won't lose the state capital. Somebody won't be pointing fingers at us and saying 2023 we will not get the governor. So nobody will say that to us boldly in the days of Mokoro. So why is it now? I think that there's a need for educated, middle class, middle-aged Urhobo people who are patriotic to take over the Urhobo Progress Union. And to do this, we need to begin to get involved. Pay your dues, attend meetings, be very intentional, and let us take it over. When we do a thing like this, the Urhobo Progress Union will now be in a stronger position to galvanize us for unity, for action, for progress. Look at our neighbors now. Look at the new king that is coming up, just 37. We must know that some people are looking at the future. Tomorrow is beginning today. And we must look at this. Otherwise, in the next election of the UPU, people knowing that the new ESCO are going to be involved with 2023, people begin to think dollars. And then unpatriotic people will seize the platform. We need to do all that to get ready so that we don't continue in this situation, because if we continue like this, our children will not only be disadvantaged, they will be at risk. God forbid. And I pray that a platform like this will be able to take the decisive action, and clubs that are already there, like this fora, like the Atamu Social Club, Urhobo Social Club, they could think about things like the coming census, the voter registration that is coming again, the revalidation registration. What are we doing as a people? And we cannot just leave it in limbo. Some people must take responsibility to ensure that in the coming voters registration, awareness creation is done properly and our people are effectively mobilized to register to vote. The same thing at the census. When we do these basic things, we'll find that we'll be able to stand and take our place in the Committee of Ethnic Nationalities. And when this implementation, hopefully, of the 2014 confab report comes up, which will now be the restructuring in action, we the Urhobos will be properly positioned to take our place. Otherwise, we'll get into a situation where nobody's calling the shots, everybody's going on his own, we are Republican, and then we'll begin to be full of shame once again. I'm an Urhobo, and God is God's gift to be an Urhobo man. And every Urhobo must take this seriously. Ben, I can see you are smiling. I don't know whether you're telling me whether my time is up. You know, I'm a politician and I'm a preacher, and talking is what I do for a living. And you are not paying for this, but the Urhobo Nation is benefiting from electing me into office. And that doesn't stop me from campaigning for 2023. I want to thank you for the privilege. Thank you and God bless.
Honorable, distinguished Honorable Francis Ejiroghene Waive, succinctly put, very sagacious, very eloquent. Honorable Francis Waive is a priest and a dedicated representative to his people, and we are very proud of you. Your points are very well taken. God bless you. I think setting the record straight is important, and I think that we need to put facts against facts and lay facts the way they are. So some controversies sometimes are useful, and I think it's healthy, and I hope that we learn from it. There's no bad blood, there's no other intention, but the best interest and the greater interest of Urhobo is everything. Let me quickly call on our Amazon mother, Dr. Cecilia Ibru, the president and co-founder of the Michael and Cecilia Ibru Foundation, to say a few things around the human capital for Urhobo land and what we can do. 5 minutes, let's keep it on time. I know that you have a lot to say, but if you do us the honor, we are very proud, and you look very elegant today. Thank you so much, our president and our mother. Thank
you, Redo. Thank you very much. What's happening now?
Go ahead, ma.
Now, and I want to appreciate all the speakers, especially the professors and our politician. I'm so glad that we have one politician amongst us speaking this afternoon, and he's been able to give us some insight into what is happening in government. But having said that, I remember when he wanted to go into politics, I said to him, what are you going to do there? He said, if I don't go, who will go now? And I can't forget that. And I'm glad he did. I didn't support him all the time, but he's like a son to me. Now, the problem we have in the grassroots is what I want us to begin to address. We have the leadership problem, which I feel that the political class should come into its forefront to address. Without political strength, we can't go very far. Therefore, it is up to us to promote people into the political class. We must do that. That's part of human capital development. And having said that, we need to also look into our youth. Our youth are getting very, very aggressive and unruly. In the grassroots, you find that most of them would rather not go to school, but after school starts, they will go into Yahoo business. Now, this is because there are not enough jobs to attract them and get them engaged. Lack of engagement is the problem. And then when you think about that, where does that come from? Not only political, from the home. So what are we going to do? Poverty is a problem, and we've got to address that. We have to have structures on the ground. We cannot wait. If you look at our history behind, where we are coming from with the Mowos and so on and so forth, they were very affirmative. They did not wait for governments. They did what they had to do. I remember when my father was going to London to read law, he had money, but he didn't have enough. Only our people had to loan him money to go abroad. And when he came back, he paid. Now, these are the kind of things that community can enforce and re-establish. Many of our children don't have any means of training themselves, and we are looking and not doing anything. The little experience I've had now at Agbara shows that our children are desiring to go to school, to go to university, and so on. The issue is finance, and we need to put some affirmative action in place to address those issues. I'm so glad to hear that UPU is coming up with a microfinance bank, and that microfinance bank must have a place where you can take loans for education, like other countries do. Fine, they might not always pay, but what we gain will be more than what we lose in terms of economic computations. I want to address all of us to participate in the youth empowerment program. We must. If you don't, who is going to be a politician? Look at what is happening. Many of the Urhobo people in politics are, what do you call them, hooligans. They are the rough boys. Many of them are being killed all the time. Why should our people be the ones, being killed? So all of us down the line, from the UPU, from all the organizations, we must have an affirmative action to address the youth problem. And when we have done that, then we teach them how to comport themselves, how to use civility and humility to climb the ladder of success. And I'm here to come across somebody who is successful without humility or civility. Many of our children are so rude because they are angry. They feel that we have failed them. Now, how are we going to address that issue? And I want all of us to pay attention to it, because having said all these beautiful things, if the grassroots is not strong, what is the foundation we are going to build on? It is human capital that everything stands on in life. If your human capital is weak, you can't go very far, because they don't understand, and you cannot carry them along with you to the heights that you want them to go to. So I don't want to go too far, because I know you are looking at me now. So I will stop now. Thank you very much for the opportunity given me to speak on the youth.
Put your hands together for that brilliant contribution by Dr. Mrs. Cecilia Ibru. Awesome. Our youths should be able to do more and harness the potentials that God has given to Urhobo. I think distinguished Honorable Ben Rollands Igbakpa is online, and he's going to be contributing next. Ben Igbakpa is the member of the Federal House of Representatives representing the Etiop East and Etiop constituency. Currently, I know he's somewhere also contributing to national growth and development. Ben, can you speak? Can I hear you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I can't see you, but I can hear your voice. It's all right. You can start your video. Your video is not on, otherwise we can hear you loud and clear.
My video is supposed to be on. It's on from my...
Maybe the camera is not showing you. I can tell your video is on. The camera is not showing you. So you may need to adjust your camera to show and reflect back where you are.
Okay, can it be dark? I'm not dark. Okay, I think there's something blocking it.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's fine. So, absolutely. But we can't see your face yet.
I'm trying to remove it from one case.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. So now I need to turn the camera. I ought to have done this a long time ago, man.
It's all right. It's all right.
Can you see me now?
No, we can't see you. We are seeing some empty chairs in front. Okay, we can see you now. Yeah, we can see you now. Great.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, we can see you now.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You see me?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
You look very.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes.
I like that.
First, let me thank our brother Dr. Uwheru and his team for this wonderful program that they have put in place, the 4th edition. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute. I want to especially thank Professor Gigi Darah and our mommy who just spoke. They've always been there. They've always been in support of all the Urhobo activity. That each time I see anything that has to do with Urhobo, I look out for Professor Gigi Darah. Well, let me still thank my colleague, my dear brother, welcome you, Honorable Waive, and thank him for putting at least somehow paid to some of those to the issue on the salary of National Assembly. I was itching to speak, but I think he has done justice to that. So I wouldn't want to go back into it because that's, as far as I'm concerned, is a distraction to this program. Well, for me, I just want to look at some areas based on what we're looking at, a better Urhobo. So my discussion is going to be focused on the slide, Urhobo Nation and Politics. Urhobo Nation, go to slide 2 because there's no time. Urhobo Nation and Politics, Urhobo Nation and the Nigeria state, then Urhobo Nation and the national development. For us on the political side, just like Mommy said, no, we have no common front. For now, the Urhobo Nation has no common front. That is why I put up this pie chart to look at our enormous political interest. We vie for everything. Yes, we want to be governors. We have contested for governor. We have won governorship. We want to be president. We want to be whatever. But we have not been able to form that common front as a people that mean what we are saying, because and that brings us to that weak alliance, because we don't have enough alliance forming the common front based on our number. Our number, we are the highest in Delta State, but not the highest in the country. And if we have to grow beyond being what the popular say, the local champion, then we must talk about forming an alliance. Today, our strength as the most populated tribe in Delta State is being threatened. A lot is happening that people now look up to us to say that we don't actually have the figures that we're just talking. And they know that because of the fact that we don't love ourselves. I'm still on slide 2, sir. We don't love ourselves. The alliance is very weak. Because of that weak alliance, our opportunities as a result of what Urhobo can do is minimal. And to grow out of this weak alliance, our perception is modest. Our opportunities are limited. We have trust issues, and we have this pull him down syndrome, which has been a major problem. So we need to, because our alliance restricts our opportunities, we need to really come together so that we can work, we can grow beyond us and look at other people that should help us to achieve our aim. And that brings us to slide 3, which is federalism and resource control. I thank God once again, like I said, Professor Gigi Darah is with us here. He talked about the fact that we're in a unitary style of government. It's not federal. When people talk about true federalism, I tell you there's nothing like true federalism. It's either we're a federative state or not. Here we're in a unitary state where all resources, everything, all powers. While we're in this meeting, I am discussing with my colleagues on another platform on the Federal Character Commission, where the chairman is from the north and the secretary, whose tenure just expired, has been renewed again from the north. And that is federal character, which is supposed to be the flagship of equality in terms of office and politics in Nigeria. If that kind of place can be balkanized, then there's no hope. So we must come back and agree that we want to run a federative state, or we go to what we call today the popular restructuring. For me, restructuring is devolution of powers and allowing every region to do what they want to do. Then we have to do with tribalism and sectional politics. Even within us in Urhobo land, can the Jesse man vote for an Ogara man even when they are from the same local government? What about the Udu man? What would the Ogara man be speaking of the man from Ogali who says that, oh, this person is not from my place? So there's this tribalism and sectional politics, and that cannot help us. Then we'll talk the ethnic minority question. We are given crumbs. People look at us as minority in the country. Here, we look ourselves in Delta State, in the Urhobo region, as yes, we are big. But how big? What do we really have that we can do within ourselves? Because nobody, no tribe, no part, no nation can be an island of itself. So you need to work with other people. Then I'm looking at the Urhobo disintegration. Even in the UPU, our umbrella body, before we talk of the Atamus, and other Urhobo socio-political organization, the UPU is highly disintegrated. Today, we still parade 2 executives of the UPU, even when we know, yes, one side is acceptable. But is it totally acceptable? Urhobo is one nation where we have over 20-something kings and everybody marshalling their area. So we are badly balkanized. The use of Urhobo as numbers is one thing. The use of privileges and narrative. What about how do we look at ourselves? People look at us, are we really in terms of population, are we the best? Are we the highest in Delta State? And looking at our pockets of people in other places, are we really progressive? Are we known that if we have money, the next thing we go for is to marry more wives? Are we truly Wayo? Because that is a perception that people have of us outside. The Wado has been turned to Wayo. And most times when they say it, we just laugh over it. But these are serious issues that go beyond who you are and how people look at you. Are we polygamous in nature? That is the many wives thing. How do we speak of ourselves as a people when we're in the midst of others? These are many things that we need to look at in our new partnership with others. Then the capacity of political, the next slide. We have capacity of political resources. We have our people in government. We have had 2 governors in the past. Today we have the Deputy Senate President. What have we been able to do as a people in terms of infrastructure, human capital development coming from these people? How far have they been able, the past ones have they been able to put our resources together and galvanize support for ourselves among the Urhobos to give us edge over others, especially within Delta State, which is our immediate domain? We need to look at what about the people that wants to be the commissioners, me and Reverend Waive, who are in the House of Reps. What have we been able to bring to the Urhobo Nation? Then we talk about the collective socioeconomic investment. How many of us have invested in Urhobo land? Because we're talking about taking our children. If the foundation is faulty, there's no way the Urhobo land, the Urhobo Nation can stand well. Our children leaving school, how are they getting job? When we know that we don't have that strength out there, we don't have the people there, then we must try as much as possible. The Atamos, the Urhobo Renaissance Group, the UPU should be able to go into partnership with even foreign direct investment and bring factories, companies to Urhobo land so that our people can be employed. There was a mention of our late uncle, Onosode, and some persons who were boardroom gurus. Then they were able to take some of our youth outside to other areas where the companies are located. Today, it is easier for us to bring these companies home. How many of us, even as politicians that have made money, have invested in Urhobo land? We prefer to take the investment to Lagos, to Abuja, to other areas where people will come and they'll be marginalized. So let us see how we can come inside to invest in Urhobo land and employ our people. Then again, everybody's looking at being commissioners, essays. Even today, people are fighting to be essay to kings. Everybody wants appointment. For us in the representative capacity, we tell people when they come to me, most of the time, what can you do for yourself? And someone says, bros, there's nothing I can do. I want to be put somewhere where I can be getting money every month. And that cannot work. So the roboteam should be thinking of influencing direct investment, getting employment to our people, so that we can, as Urhobo people, take care of ourselves, because nobody's ready to take care of us. We must forego this pulling down syndrome of our people in authority and see what we can do together, irrespective of which part of Urhobo you're from. Urhobo is one. We are blessed. We are homogeneous in language, despite the pockets of dialects. So in summary, our choice, give me my slides. Doctor, give me my slide. Give my last slide, yes. Our choice may be constant, or it may change if we intentionally commit to developing our people and our land. We have our limit, but we all possess varying degrees of political, social, and economic control that we can leverage on for common good. Our survival as a people goes beyond tribal formation. We must be deliberate about realizing the determination of Urhobo people. We must be ready to review, reorganize, criticize our current strategies, birth a new model of workable and realistic development plan. Urhobo Wado.
Urhobo. Atiagoke, Honorable, put your hands together for our distinguished Honorable. Very, very well put, very charismatic, and I think the people chose you well to represent them in Etiop East and Etiop West. I congratulate all of your federal constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that this has been a very, very robust and engaging conversation. Now, I am going to open the platform for interaction. And I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you have a question, not a comment. Only questions will be taken. You know, one of the gifts we have in Urhobo is the gift of oratory. We are very good orators. We talk very well. And you know, they say talk is cheap. So if you are in doubt of anything, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask questions, and that will be it. And you are going to have just 30 seconds to ask your questions to any of the speakers you so choose. So I'm going to start with the names that I'm seeing here and the hands raised. Comrade Essie Isiakwe, your hand is up. I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic and direct your question to one of the speakers, and 30 seconds, no comments, only questions. Don't repeat what the speakers have said. Ask for clarifications in case you're in doubt. So go ahead. We can't hear you. Unmute your mic. I've asked you to unmute.
Am I being heard?
Loud and clear.
Good. My question is being directed to the honorable members at the National House of Assembly. We'll be talking regarding their responsibilities in the House of Assemblies and the oversight functions. We've been allocated 13% derivation funds to the oil producing communities. And we have 7 local government areas in the Urhobo Nation producing oil. I would like them to enlighten the Urhobo Nation how they have come up in monitoring the implementation of projects in these oil communities. For instance, in my community, Kokori community, there have been ghost abandoned projects which are meant to enhance the economic well-being of the people at the grassroots level. But if they are just sitting down there at Abuja without monitoring the allocation, this monthly allocation of resources to finance the economic well-being of these grassroots oil producing communities, that means it's a waste of exercise, and it remains questionable why these monies are being allocated to enhance these communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. Ben, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
Okay, Comrade, let me thank you very much. I'm happy we have this forum. Dr. Uwheru, I want to thank you once again, because these are issues that have been bothering people. On the issue of the 13% derivation funds, it's given to the states. As it is today, it is no longer our responsibility, as it is at the National Assembly, to monitor the 13% derivation that is given to the states. That is for the State House of Assembly to monitor. What I monitor now is the one given to the Niger Delta Development Commission, which is not within the 13% derivation fund. And again, on the Raike issue, I remember I raised a motion, a matter of urgent public importance, on the Raike issue in Kokori, when there was a leakage, a kind of, what do they call it? And it led to fire. I raised the motion on the matter of public importance. It was taken by the House. Heritage Energy, that's the company, was invited. But till date, you know, most times these things happen, and we have people, the locals, that are frustrating the move that you are making. You end up being the wicked man, and they are suffering it. As a representative, let me be clear here on the responsibilities of a representative, especially at the legislative arm. The first one is lawmaking. The second one is representation, that is speaking for you. And the third one is oversight. And in this oversight, we can only oversight projects that are executed by the federal government. As it is now, there are issues within the exclusive and the legislative list. There are state laws and there are federal laws. We have crossed that stage. When I was in the State House of Assembly, I can go to Ethiopia and ask questions as to what the governor is spending. But the way it is now, I can only ask what the federal government is spending. So unfortunately, my brother, I think you should speak to Honorable Innocent Anidi of the State House of Assembly on the 13% derivation and how it is being implemented.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, distinguished Honorable Ben Rollands Igbakpa. Francis, Honorable Francis Ejiroghene Waive, you want to say something quickly? Francis Waive? Okay, that's fine. I'll take the next question, and I'm going to call on the man who raised his hand. There is a young man, oh sorry, not a young man actually.
Well, young man.
Smart Ofugara. You look young, but I know you're not so young. Smart, I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic. Only questions, please, and no comments. And it's 30 seconds, please. Direct a question to any of the panelists and speakers. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is to our honorable members. In light of the census and voters registration, can anything be done to make registration more electronically effective, just as you have the banks in Nigeria that have done with the BVN and all accounting systems, such that we can have our registration where we will not have to say 20,000 people are registered in Uwheru. Suddenly we'll have a situation where 40,000 people will register to vote. So when can we possibly have a system in place? I live in the US, where my driver's license and as a citizen makes me eligible to vote. I don't have to identify myself beyond my driver's license because all my informations are there. Can we gravitate to that level where we'll have authenticity if to get the right population and the right number of votes per ward, per local government and state? Thank you.
Thank you. Very good question, Matt. Let me, Francis, can you go ahead, please?
Yes, please. Good question. I'm pleased they asked. First, I must say that we are making progress, though slowly. What is happening now with BVN, with the national identification number, and all of that is progress. So we hope that one day we'll get to electronic voting, electronic registration, and all that. But let me correct one impression you made. That is that 20,000 register, but 50,000 come out to vote. No, that cannot happen. What happens is that during the registration exercise, our neighbors have a way of mobilizing for effective registration. That is why, if you are a politician and you want to rig an election, for example, you can only rig to the extent of the registered voters from your area. So if, for example, Sapele registers 20,000 voters and Warri North registers 300,000 voters, the maximum electoral fraud that can be committed in Sapele is 20,000, whereas in Warri North is 300,000. So our problem as Urhobo people always begins from the point of registration. We don't mobilize our people to register, and that is what we must do in the 2021 registration. We hope that going forward, it will become electronic, and all these criminality, I call them, that vices with the system will eventually ebb out. That is what I think is the situation on ground. We'll get in there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well answered. I'm going to call on one of the youths, the Urhobo youths, Ujirime Ogene Jude, to direct his question to any of the speakers. So Jeremiah, you have been unmuted. Can you direct a question to any of the speakers? Can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, Migo, how's there go, everybody? I'm very grateful for this opportunity. So my question is going to be very quick. So from the onset, when we sent out this invitation, I could see like a lot of people here, obviously, people that have access to phones, people that are probably middle class going towards the upper class. This is the thing. If anything we are saying here, if anything we want to do can work, like what are the plans to engage the stakeholders as decision makers as well, or making them buy into the decision rather than us telling them what to do with regards to like the people on ground, the youth in Delta states, talking about, and also as well, like our upper class brothers, the people that are in the higher positions and echelons of society, people that are gaining from the current structure. How do we get these people involved? Like right now, we're just speaking within ourselves, but then it's very, very important, I think, that the majority of the people that have the highest influence in the progress of the Urhobo community, the Urhobo Nation, sorry, we need to get them involved. And what's the plan to do this? This is an open question.
Thank you. May I ask Dr. Cecilia Ibru to unmute her mic and speak to that question? But let me also say that this is what we are doing right now. It's a step in the right direction. We are actually responding by this webinar. You can see the quality and class of the resource persons and the attendees in this webinar, and that's the way we respond. So when you talk about the people who make things happen, the people who make things happen are very close to you. In fact, if you look very close to the next person that you are close to on this webinar, you'll be shocked to know the quality and class of the person close to you. So we're having the right conversation with the right people, and be rest assured that solutions and implementations will naturally happen. So I don't know, Dr. Cecilia Ibru, you want to say something to that before I call on any of the speakers? Go ahead.
Is it possible for you to ask the question again, please?
The question was, how do we make the discussions, how do we make it more impactful, knowing that we talk more and we do less, and then the possibility that the right people may not be in the room? What do we need to do to implement? Yeah.
Now, I didn't hear the question. Could you repeat, please?
Okay, OJ, can you go ahead? Jeremy, go ahead again.
Okay, hello, Degoma, good evening. So basically, like the crux of my question was like in terms of the stakeholders, the people that would most likely can make or break any of the decisions that were made. So there were two groups of people that I highlighted. So I first of all mentioned like the high echelon, the political class, and people that may stand to gain from the current structure of what's going on now. And secondly, like you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the youth back in Delta State. So how many of the people on the streets are we able to like speak to, not in the sense that we're telling them what to do, but almost allowing them to buy into the idea and see how this is beneficial, short-term, long-term, medium-term. So that is just where my concerns lie.
Well,
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe you are talking about the youth. And if it's the youth, where is the traction? How do you bring them in for them to begin to realize that they need to improve themselves and get on with the type of education or influences or apprenticeship that could help them live a worthwhile life? Because when you look at it, even in Nigeria, when government is not working, people are working, they are earning. But the problem with our own area is that there's not enough opportunities for these youths to participate in gainful employment. So many of them are going to all these, fraudulent practices. In politics, they're going to fraudulent practices in politics, and they become the fodder for politicians. And then, of course, this Yahoo thing is another thing. But what we are saying, how do we bring structures in? Now, that is why we're having this discussion, so that people who have that concept of helping the youth will come together and be able to work with UPU. UPU also have a program for the youth, be able to work with UPU and hopefully be able to put structures on the ground that can attract youths. For instance, employment centers, if you go there, many of them, you find that they are not qualified. So send them to training center that will be funded, hopefully, by some of our associations. Our associations are many, but are they putting their money where they, to back up their suggestions? And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. Just a little from each person contribution can help. Now with this our microfinance bank that is coming up, all of us should participate and save money there. And from there, they will use money to be able to fund some of these structures that will help the youth empowerment program. Thank you very much.
Great response. Thank you very much. Professor Kingsley Edu, there is a question for you. I've asked you to unmute your mic if you can hear me. Question from Eloho. Eloho is asking you. Eloho is asking what can be done, that you have written a lot of articles that are published in the African Journal. What can we do to ensure that the position of Urhobo on restructuring and devolution of power is documented and fully implemented? Professor Kingsley, over to you.
Well, most of what we have discussed now, we can document them. We can arrive at a resolution today, and our resolutions will be documented, and we can, at the appropriate time, send them to the appropriate government agencies. At the same time, we can also keep copies of resolutions like this that we've arrived at. So these are some of the ways that we can document our resolutions and decisions.
Thank you.
And yes, moreover, can I go?
Go ahead, finish.
Okay. Moreover, anything that is written and published is there almost forever for people to see, especially in these days of internet. So all you need to do is to go to the internet and access these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Let me also, Eloho, let me inform you that the Urhobo Webinar Group has a website, and all the communiques from all the previous webinars are documented. You can access them and get information. Also, like I said, the various presentations from our speakers today are also well documented in the website of the Urhobo Webinar Group. Just go there and pick up those information, including the one of today. I'm going to allow Uwheru. Uwheru is with us today, the second lady who is asking the question, to unmute your mic and direct your question to any of the speakers of your choice. Go ahead.
We speak English, obviously. I would have loved to speak Urhobo, but let's put it this way. The speaker who mentioned that Urhobo made a demand for, I think, 100 million, I said Naira, somebody corrected me that is dollars, for the oil producing part of Delta states. What is it called? Asking them to give back that money so that they can use to restructure. My question is this: most of the time, I tend to get weary of a lot of species that has no grassroots solution. If I may ask him, has any plan been put in place for what that money would be used for, if and when it eventually comes to us? That's my question.
That's a $1 billion question, honestly.
There should be a plan for it, not just asking for the money. And when it comes, it's a kill and divide issue. Let's divide it, and then it doesn't meet its purpose, and we are back to square one.
Spot on, absolutely, absolutely. I wanted Professor Darah to speak to that, because Professor Awhefeada is, I think, is having network challenge. Professor Darah, are you there? Can you unmute your mic and speak to that question? Is it possible? Okay, I'm not sure, Professor Darah. He's here, but I'm not sure he's able to respond to that. But I think that question is very important. So I would ask that we come back to you with a response on that. Let me call on Idesiri Izu. Idesiri Izu, can you unmute your mic and direct your question to one of our speakers? Idesiri.
Okay. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me, please?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Quickly, like you said, there will be no comments, so I will just go straight to the few questions I have. The first one is, while I acknowledge the role of our legislators, particularly the two we have on the platform now, and the former honorable member of representing Egypt East in Delta House Assembly, Chief Evans Uwheru, who is no longer there now, there are roles in calling the attention of the federal government and state governments to security issues in the Urhobo-speaking areas, especially the herdsmen crisis and all that. In the past, it has been what we're hearing in the news for other regions, but over the last few years, it has become even more commonplace in not just Delta State, but the Urhobo-speaking parts of Delta State, which is my primary constituency. So apart from raising motions or moving motions of public importance, what specifically is being done or has been proposed to stop this? Because it is killing, we talk about agriculture, Urhobo has land, but when you can't go to the land to farm, where will the food come from? You look at what happens in the Abraka reserves and the Uwheru axis and other axes. So I'll just keep that brief. What exactly is, apart from moving motions and crying in the page of papers and all that, what other things are being done, okay, for to improve security, particularly with the herdsmen crisis? Secondly, I also want to ask, what are our leaders doing to improve accessibility? Okay, for example, with due respect, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but let's tell ourselves some truths. Honorable Igbakpa spoke so well about pulling him down and other things. He also made a comment about people asking for jobs and this or that, want to be PA, want to be that. I also have my reservations about that. So I want us to re-engineer what we are doing. I want to ask how we can also do it. So for example, if you look at the other tribes, okay, you go to, I'm the Federal Minister of Health, for example, you come to our secretariat and most of the language you hear is Yoruba and all that. But you go to CBN, you don't see many Urhobo people inside there. You go to NNPC, you go to Federal Minister of Health, in one hand, you can count how many Urhobo people are there. So what I'm asking now is, how are our leaders who are privileged to be in these positions of leadership, how have they used their positions to put our people we have eminently qualified people, youths of all ages, how have they used their positions to enhance or facilitate employment of our youths or people into strategic places? Federal Ministries of Health, NNPC, CBN, even the police force.
Thank you very much, Izu. Very eloquently put. The question is in two folds. The first one is the herdsmen crisis. The other is the use of position to empower our people, Urhobo first and foremost. So I'm going to ask Honorable Ben Igbakpa to speak to the herdsmen crisis because that's your constituency, and Izu is from Abraka. Then I'm going to ask Honorable Francis to speak to what we are doing to show example by empowering our people. So we're going to spread the question in two. So Ben, over to you.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. On the issue of what we are doing, apart from motions and bills, first you must, you cannot put the load of a pickup in a 10-ton trailer. There's no way it will move. A 10-ton trailer load on a pickup. That's exactly what you're telling us to do. We have constitutional responsibility. And if we are talking that we need to have what I will call constitutional implementation reliability, where people should rely on the Constitution to do whatever they are doing. Our responsibilities I have reeled out here: lawmaking, representation, and oversight. We can only make the noise. We can only bring the problem of our constituencies to the fore. We can only tell Nigerians and the executive arm, because no matter what we do, the implementation relies with the executive arm of government. It's a relay. We cannot be the executive arm and be the legislative arm. So our role is to bring it to the floor. Our role is to let Nigerians know. Our role is to let the executive know, because after every motion that you are seeing, it does not end there. The clerk of the arm of the legislative arm, which is either the House of Reps or the Senate, we do a draft on the recommendation and resolution, send it to the clerk of the National Assembly, and that is forwarded to the presidency and the relevant agency of government for implementation. For instance, my first motion when I entered the National Assembly was on the incident killing of our people by the herdsmen in Ethiopia East and Ethiopia West. And a team was drafted from Abuja. Guess what happened? A team of SSS, National Orientation Agency, was drafted to Delta State to discuss with our people what is happening, how the federal government can help. Guess what happened? The chairman of the two local governments, I wouldn't talk of Ethiopia because I didn't see, when I saw the report, I didn't see Chief Faith Majemte attending, but the one of Ethiopia West, the immediate past chairman, Solomon Goli, attended, and they said nothing is happening in his local government. That means I was crying wolf. And the people came back because the recommendation follows that there should be a proper advocacy by National Orientation Agency, and that they should criminalize open grazing in my region. Those are some of it, though not implementable without a law to back it up. But the people went back to Abuja and said, well, the chairman, who is the chief security officer of Ethiopia, said that there's nothing apart from the OVA of Abraka, His Royal Majesty Majoro, who sent a written representation. No other person went there with anything concrete to convince these people. And when we speak, after all the grammar, nothing happens. When you come home and the home base where this is happening, a chairman is saying that nothing is happening in his constituency. What do you expect them to do? So our own is to speak, our own is to cry, our own is to bring it to national discourse so that the executive arm can act. And that's what we can do. There's nothing more we can do. The other one is to come to our people and tell them, please be careful. These people are dangerous. But what happened? Are we going to abandon our farms? So that's it. That's what we can do.
Thank you very much. Francis, can you respond to the issue of empowerment of our people? Urhobo first.
Yeah, thank you very much. I heard him talk about what we are doing to get employment for our people. I would also ask him, he's a staffer of the Ministry of Health, he said, we should also be able to look at what he has been able to do and what he's doing for our people. It's a joint responsibility, a collective one. As lawmakers, our assignment does not include securing employment for people, but all of us from the Urhobo Nation who are there use the privilege to seek for openings. And I think each of us can testify of persons that we have been able to assist. Of course, the press is awash with stories of what His Excellency, Deputy President of the Senate, my brother, my leader, Barrister Vioma Agege has done for our people. Hundreds in several agencies. He has used the prestige of the office to bring in a lot of jobs for our people. And you just need to ask one or two persons, and you see many will testify of a man who knows how to use public office for the good of his people. So we are doing that, and everybody should do it in his own little area for the progress of the Urhobo Nation. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's all collaborate for the greater good of Urhobo. That's the message. Ima Okotite, your hand is up. I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic and ask your question to any of the speakers. Go ahead.
Well, Urhobo
Hey.
Urhobo well, mine is really a rhetorical question. And I'm just wondering that with what is happening in the Federal Republic of Nigeria today, are we as a people prepared for any eventuality? I use the word eventuality in the sense that so the shit hits the fan and everything goes down. Are we capable of taking care of ourselves as a people, as a nation? Should we be having, would that be a plan D, a plan B, a plan Z? Or it's not something we should think about? I'm just thinking aloud that Nigeria is going through a lot of issues today. And I don't know whether one can predict where we are going to end up, because things are not as, things haven't gotten this bad the way it is now. And so I'm just asking a rhetorical question. First of all, can we as a people survive on our own? If we can, are there plans? Is any group, anybody planning for the Urhobo Nation in the eventuality of the shit hitting the roof in the current Nigerian state? That's my question. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Okotite. That is a very strategic question. And I think one of the ways to respond is part of what we are doing right now, having the right conversations. We must not give up our rights to advocate. We must not give up our rights, to discuss and to interact. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are having these conversations. And from these conversations, series of solutions, blueprints, and initiatives and strategies will be crafted, which we can execute for the greater good and the development of Urhobo land. And I think we can leave it there in the first instance. I'm going to give the opportunity to Benjamin Enwe, who wants to ask a question before we close. Benjamin, can you unmute your mic, and only 30 seconds for your question. Benjamin, unmute your mic, please. Unmute your mic. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Igbakpa. Thank you, Dr. Ben, for the opportunity to ask my questions. Interestingly, a few of my contemporaries have asked some of the questions that I should have asked. Ojerime and Izu. But I tend to be a little bit not satisfied with the answer, particularly on the issue of security. So, because for me, that's very, very, very pertinent. If we are discussing Urhobo as a nation in Nigeria today, with the current security turmoil and, of course, the awareness in all the geopolitical zones of Nigeria. I think we need to really interrogate that matter particularly. So I want to ask, maybe to you, since my very honorable elders, Honorable Ben Igbakpa has really put some answers to that, which is, for me, pretty unbelievable. Can we have a synergy of the legislature and the executive? Say we invite them, part of some representation from the executive. So we really get to know, because for me, it's really a concern. As per reports, security reports from particularly my very village, Uwheru, where there's been really, serious concerns. So I really want to ask, so that we really get to know the nitty-gritty of the approach we want to look and we want to put into solving this, so that we don't get, lost out in the whole milieu of planning for this issue about security. And this is a very good time to have this kind of conversation, and then we'll get to know what the next steps are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. Let me say that you've made a good suggestion or analysis of the situation. Issues of security are not public issues that you discuss. It's really about execution. And I can tell you that the Urhobo hierarchy and strategic leaders are actually on top of this. We may not give you the specifics in terms of what we are doing, but I can assure you that this forum is engaging with all the relevant stakeholders to broker the right interventions to provide peace and security to our people. And I know that some of our leaders are already here and they've listened to the conversation, and definitely we would intervene or act accordingly. So be rest assured, and I know your concerns are very germane. I would ask Chove Emaniru to unmute her mic and ask a question, which will likely be our last question. She's going to ask her last question, gender consideration. So Chove Emaniru, can you ask any of our speakers particularly, or that you want to direct to? Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Well, most of the things I wanted to raise have been answered. They've been raised by others and answered. But what I want to talk about, trying as much as possible to make my question without actually bringing out the comment aspects of it, because I've realized that a lot of youth today, a lot of Urhobo youth are beginning to distance themselves from the culture. Now, if we're talking about coming together as a nation for the progress of our tribe, our nation, and then we have the youth not interested as being seen as part of the tribe, it's a great concern. In my own little sphere, I try to integrate myself. Anytime I see someone from Urhobo, I want to associate myself, but I see this detachment. People are not really ready to be counted among Urhobo people. They're not proud to be seen as Urhobo. And I think as the generations are coming, the younger generations seem to be distancing themselves from being part of this culture. So how do we work together as a nation and see that we sustain this culture? Because in all that we are saying, even if we have our daddies and mommies leading, we still need the youth to sustain rather than have our culture go into extinction. Even in this meeting, I'm expecting that we should be speaking Urhobo, but we're all speaking English. Many of us are not fluent in Urhobo. I hear, I speak, but it can be very, very funny. And it's going down. My children now, they can't even speak. And the interest is being lost every day. What can we do as we work as a nation to further the cause of our culture? What can we do really to bring our children on board and let this culture be sustained? That's my great concern. Thank you.
Chove Emaniru, thank you very much. You have the honor and privilege of getting a response from another Urhobo Amazon, our mother, Dr. Cecilia Ibru. So congratulations, this is your big victory. She's going to respond to you. Dr. Cecilia Ibru, please, over to you.
Thank you.
Now, regarding our culture, actually it's been an issue even from my grandmother's days. She was always saying, if you don't speak Urhobo, you will lose your culture. language is the expression of, is the language with which we express our culture. And we just have to keep trying. I was quite happy to hear that in London, they have a school, weekend school for teaching Urhobo. So that is something that, you know, we should encourage all over the world. And as for in Nigeria, many people are not speaking Urhobo to their children. So they are speaking broken language, broken English, and so on. But if we don't speak it, we will lose it. So all of us have to continue to try to teach the language, no matter how small, even if it's just Magari. These are the beginnings. At least they know that they have an affiliation to a language called Urhobo. And all our children, no matter where they are, they should have that little beginning. And hopefully they can now develop interest in research. For instance, we have Urhobo dictionary now online. You can go and then look at it and look for words. So I know, I've seen a Urhobo family has a mixed white and Urhobo, black and white. And the children are speaking Urhobo because he has taken it upon himself to teach the children the language. So learning the language, the culture comes from the home first, not necessarily the community. It is a home training for the children. We used to speak Urhobo in our house. You know, whether my father was a lawyer, my mother was this or that, nothing. And he used to speak Urhobo to us all the time. And it was a good thing. I wish now that all my children are speaking Urhobo. When they were young, they were. But as they grow older, you don't communicate with them in the language, they begin to lose it. But however, whenever they come back and you speak to them, they still have a smattering of the language. And that is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Amazon. Peter Ojoji is from the US and he's been eager to ask a question. So Peter, I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask a question, and then we'll take one more and we'll be done. Peter, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ben. I have just two questions. The first one is to the organizers of this webinar. I've attended, this is the third one I'm attending. So I want to find out, what flesh are you putting into these various recommendations? That's for the organizers. The various recommendations, what flesh are we putting into this to make them become reality? And then the second one is to our reps in the National Assembly. Are the Urhobos in the National Assembly building synergy for the interest of Urhobo? And then what synergy are you also having with those in Delta State House of Assembly? And what are you doing to build across other groups for the interest of Urhobo? Those are the two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, your question is very, very important. Let me assure you that the webinar group is a group of Urhobo intellectuals, and we are not just a think tank, but we support other groups like you've heard, the Renaissance Group, Atambo Social Club, Urhobo Social Club, the UPU, and across to execute and implement ideas from this session. So this session is not just for us, but it's for the general growth and development of Urhobo land. And we work with other groups to ensure that these ideas are developed. So we don't take credit, you know, for any of the ideas. We walk through other platforms to ensure they are implemented. The second question, I would like our honorables to say a few words in 60 seconds. So maybe Ben, you want to go first and just quickly respond. Synergy, we talked about synergy with our representatives or our political leaders. Ben, go ahead.
Yes, the synergy that we put in place, yes, we relate with them, but unfortunately, I must say it here because we are thinking about developing Urhobo and Urhobo land. Some of these House of Assembly members seem to, when you try to bring them in, it's like you're in a competition with them. Yes, looking at it from the angle of order of precedence, the National Assembly comes first. And whatever law that they make, and we make similar laws, our own supersedes. But most of these state assembly members consider themselves as being more on ground, and they see you as coming to lot whatever views you have. So most times you see people working at cross purpose, which is unhealthy. I think the same question you should think of a way. I expect the National State Assembly members who are able to be on this platform and be listening to this discourse today. A lot of them don't want to work with you, to see you as a threat because of political reasons. I don't know why, but for me, I try as much as possible to relate with them and tell them it will have been possible. There are times, I remember the last Christmas, where I was planning with some of them to say, oh, how do we give our people whatever we have together as a team? But before you know, they started giving what they have. So it's difficult to bring them on board unless the Urhobo Nation should sit down and draw a roadmap where everybody will have to come together and say, look, this is about the interest. Forget whatever political divide that you have and work together. So the synergy, I won't lie, because if we continue to lie, we'll be deceiving ourselves. There's no proper synergy.
Very good. Francis, you want to say something on that? Go ahead.
I think my colleague, the Right Honorable Ben, has said it all, but the question becomes a challenge that we should work on. That's the way I would conclude it.
All right, it's a challenge that we all need to work on. Fantastic. I think there's some vibrant Urhobo young man who has been agitating to ask a question. Billy Egbe, I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic. I see you that you've been eager to ask a question. Can you go ahead, please? I'll keep it very short.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benson. Thank you so much. I must commend your efforts so far. This is the first time I'm attending this webinar. And Igbakpa Mingwo, to our honorable member, Mingwo sir, and to our mama, Mingwo ma, and every other person. A very quick one. You know, as a young Urhobo man, I am deeply concerned about the level of moral decadence in Urhobo Nation, because everything we are saying here, it's all about human capital development. We are talking about people management. Whether you're a politician or a business person, it all comes down to people management. And if you look at the Urhobo Nation today, the question I want to ask right now, this organization or this group, and this question is, I'm directing this question especially to our political leaders and our socio-cultural leaders. What is on ground, or what are they doing to curtail the excesses of those who are responsible for the moral decadence in Urhobo land right now? Let me just, a few seconds, let me explain what I'm saying here. If you go around Delta Central, because if you go around Delta Central right now, nearly every family is producing nothing outside Yahoo boys and runs girls. It is in every family. We must tell ourselves this truth. We won't achieve anything on this platform when the people we are looking at developing, the human capital development that we are looking at, we cannot achieve it if the people we are looking at, that is the youth, if they are not mentally developed. You cannot give somebody 500,000 or 1 million naira loan to go and do a business when the person is not ready. Somebody who has spent 1 million in the club, or who is used to seeing people spend millions in the club, you can't give that person loan of 1 million to go and do a business. We know that there are responsible Urhobo young people, but what is the ratio of responsible Urhobo young men to the ratio of irresponsible Urhobo young men and women? So what are our political and socio-cultural leaders? What are they doing to curtail the excesses or to curtail the moral decadence that is eating deep, very deep into the fabrics of the Urhobo Nation? You go to every local government area in Delta State, you see hotels with young girls and young boys smoking, drinking. These are the people. This thing has eaten deep into them. What are we doing to reorient or to change the orientation of our young men and women who are languishing in moral decadence out there? So that is just my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Great question, very passionate. I like to say that leadership begins with all of us. When we talk about leadership, it's easy to look for Honorable Ben Igbakpa, Francis Waive, Cecilia Ibru. We keep pointing fingers and we forget that leadership actually begins with us. So Billy, the answer is leadership begins with you, Billy Egbe. You have to be that example and you have to set that standard of excellence that will naturally impact the young people around you. And that is a standard. But I'd like, I don't know, Professor Darah, are you still there? Prof.
I'm here.
Can you respond to that question briefly? I know that I just saw you now. Unmute your mic, please. Go ahead.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Hello? Well, that question that he asked is a very large question. I don't think that it can be answered with a few sentences. I will urge that the organizers, as well as other Urhobo organizations, should take the question, dissect it, and design programs around it. We cannot decree the manner in which that segment of society should become disciplined. I think that should be recorded as one of the running issues from this discussion. And we should connect with other Urhobo associations. And we should draw a log plan on how to tackle it through the educational system, through the institutions, and through the cultural organization. It's not a question that can be answered in a few sentences. I understand the gravity of it because I teach students, I teach young ones, and I appreciate the level to which this problem of delinquency has entered our system. But take it as a take-home from this conversation.
Professor Darah, you're giving us a take-home. That is a thesis. We'll take some time to come up with solutions on that. But I'd like Francis Waive, a priest, to respond to that question, because I know Francis has dealt with a lot of young people, and being a priest, you know, there are solutions that you would have proffered to youth delinquency and all that. So, Francis, if you are there, I would like you to respond or provide some solutions, if possible, in addition to what Darah said. Are you there?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a serious problem, and it's not limited to the Urhobo Nation. As I go around with colleagues across the country, I see that it's a major problem, and it comes from poverty, endemic poverty. It comes from lack of education, or is this education that they really have? Because it's different from what we had. It comes from idleness and unemployment and everything you want to mention. But that's not to give it an excuse why it should remain in Urhobo land and why leaders in Urhobo land should not do anything about it. From the religious angle, they will continue to do moral instruction, prayers and all of that. And as leaders, would need to continue to engage young people and show example of how things can be done in a different and better way. And perhaps, like Prof. Darah said, would design a program, especially on this platform and elsewhere, to reach the grassroots, to reach our young people, to see change. That's what I can say for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Francis Waive. And I think with that, we would call it a wrap for this session today. I must thank everybody for joining us, particularly our keynote speakers, Professor Darah, Professor Sonia Awhefeada, and Professor Kingsley. I'll thank our discussants, very distinguished Right Honorable Francis Ejiroghene Waive, representing the Ughelli South, Ughelli North, and Udu Federal Constituency. Also to thank our brother, distinguished Right Honorable Ben Rollands Igbakpa, representing Etiop East, Etiop West Federal Constituency, and our mother, the very distinguished Dr. Cecilia Ibru, for her beautiful remarks on human capital. The conversation keeps going. we will not stop talking. We will not stop having these conversations. Like I said, we are also sharing the solutions with other groups and ensuring that implementation is executed across board. I would now like to also thank all members of the webinar group and members who attended this program and who supported us in making this a big success. We had over 300 participants joining us from all over the world. We have people from Canada, US, Sao Tome Principe, Ghana. We have people from Europe, Japan. We have people from Abuja, Lagos, Delta State, Port Harcourt, and all over the world joining us. It's been such a wonderful webinar. Our Honorable Ben Igbakpa is joining us from the US, and it's been such an exciting conversation to have. And we look forward to the 5th edition, which will happen sometime in June. So please watch out for the next edition in June. Provide your email addresses so we can send you the slides for the sessions today. And we trust that we will keep executing and implementing on the conversations. Our sister Uvigwe asked a question on what we would do with the $100 billion proposed by Sonny Awhefeada. What I can tell you is that the structures to ensure accountability, okay, and transparency in Urhobo land are being put. And part of the things we are doing is to call our leaders to attention. And you see that Honorable Ben Igbakpa and Honorable Francis Waive have been here today, and they've given very good account of themselves. And I can assure you that the process also in ensuring that UPU is united and Urhobo is one would help us achieve that level of accountability and transparency. So please don't lose sleep and let's keep it going. I'd like to call on a member of our Board of Trustees and also the President of Urhobo Progressive Union of the Ikeja branch in Lagos, Olorogun Fidelis Odia, to come on board and also give us the closing prayer and say a few words before we go. Fidelis Odia.
Okay, Urhobo Wado.
Hey.
Urhobo Wado.
Hey.
My job is simple to give the closing prayer, but my few remarks is first and foremost to appreciate the keynote speakers and the discussants. You have done a very good job. We will continue to make progress. We will continue to make progress. We will continue to build on what we have achieved so far. So on that note, I will say my closing prayer. Ubo sabat nun nuena egbawe pese owo egbawe maje nuena masa bakase implement here ose mareri ikiru maje nuena kawali egba kawali ogaga kawali kemu ofori pese oru Urhobo pobaro imo Urhobo pobaro manene den that makawe yo ijo manemi o demo wo see the source crisis.
Thank you very much. Urhobo Wado. Urhobo Wado. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And God bless you all. It's been such a wonderful session. Please stay safe. COVID-19 is real. And God bless you. Have a good night. God bless you. We'll send the communique to all of you. And thank you all for joining.
Uroboyo na yamoyo meroguri ni akososo ari iwe pupore ayuna no gupo niyo ogbera ninu ya yeramuwe apo ogbera ninu ya yeramuwe hallelujah yeramuwe eriyo ogbera ninu Wanu moyo ri wojo moyo Wanu moyo re wojo moyo eri o wo pe ani jera muwe o Joshua. Oh, hallelujah. Jeramuwe. Oh, hallelujah. Jeramuwe. Hallelujah. Jeramuwe. Hey, oh, hallelujah. What is it? What do? Jeramuwe. Ayo, hallelujah.